Ethical decision making is one of the major approach that should be followed in an organization in order to make important business decisions. Okay, it should not affect the stakeholders inside the organization, it should not be affecting the community, it should not affect the society and so on. Hence ethical decision making is very important process that has to be done carefully. Okay, there are various approaches of ethical decision making. The first and foremost approach is your utilitarian approach. In this utilitarian approach, the person who is making decisions or taking decisions should do a proper analysis of what are the consequences that would be faced to the stakeholders when such a decision is done. So this is very important, right? So utilitarian approach is where the person has to identify the consequences of what impact the decision would make to the stakeholders inside the organization. Okay, next comes the rights approach. So rights approach is where each person as a human will be having his or her rights, basic rights that should be given to him, right? So the person who is performing this ethical action should keep in mind the rights approach before any decision is done, because the humans have their own choice to decide upon how their lives should be. So the person who is making ethical decisions should follow the rights approach before taking any decision. But always we cannot take decisions so that everybody's rights are being checked for. Okay, so maximum possibility should be considered. The next approach is the fairness or justice approach. In the fairness or justice approach, the ethical quality, like you have to treat everybody equally. So decisions will be made in such a case that all are equally treated and the decision is going to affect everybody in the same level. You're not going to give priority to few people inside the organization and you're not going to leave out few people inside the organization. We are going to treat everybody fairly. That is why it is called fairness or justice approach. Next is your common good approach. Common good approach is based on collective societal impact. Okay, so whatever decision that is taken will affect the wellness of the society. So it is going to create a positive impact on many people collectively in the society. Hence this is called common good approach. So when a company takes decisions in order to help the society, it will come under the common good approach category. And finally, we have the virtue approach. Virtue approach is where each person who is taking the decision will think only from his own perspective or the human values and virtues that he has. Okay, he will have certain moral values, so the decisions will be based on his moral values, the relationship between the person and the people in the organization. So everything will be considered. He will be only taking decisions based on his perspective. That is called as virtue approach. But this virtue approach sometimes will create bad impact or negative impact to the people inside the organization. So it should be taken care of before any decision is incorporated inside the organization. All these can be summarized like this. You have the utilitarian approach, which opinion will produce the most good and do the least harm. That is what you will be checking in your utilitarian. In your rights approach, we will be checking for option which is going to be the best for the stakeholders. In the fairness approach, we are going to treat everybody equally. The utilitarian approach and rights approach will be like more or less the same, because we are going to only check for the benefit of the stakeholders, how far it is going to be good for the stakeholders. So you can also consider either rights approach or utilitarian approach. Both go hand in hand. Okay, next is your common good approach. When something best serves for the community, it will come under this common good approach, where the community is only given the first priority. Finally, the virtue approach is what is my opinion. To take such decision is your virtue approach. All these decisions would be based on the person who is taking the decision, and proper understanding of the problem has to be done. Problem identification has to be done, and the decision has to be thinked many times over and over, so before it is being incorporated. So we will now see what is a framework for ethical decision making. This is the framework. So this is a sequence of steps that would be followed in ethical decision making. The first and foremost is your problem statement development. So you have to first clearly analyze what the problem is and make a clear note of the problem. It should not be general, it should be specialized problem statement stating all the nook and corner of the problem. Okay, when you have a good problem statement only, you can identify better solutions. So for any problem you will have n number of solutions, so you have to identify the alternatives or solutions that will help in solving the problem identified. That is your second step, identifying alternatives. Then you are going to choose the best alternative which will be serving to solve the problem. So you can have n number of tools and techniques, and you can apply the tools and techniques, have brainstorming sessions with everybody in the organization at various levels, so that each person will be having their own perspective. Each will come up with different ideas. So all those ideas are listed down, and the best one which is helpful in solving the problem is selected. This is called your evaluation on choose alternative step. Then the chosen method is implemented. It is followed as a process inside the organization, and the process is evaluated whether it helps in minimizing the problem or not. This is similar to your PDCA cycle, which is your plan, do, check, act cycle. Okay, so the evaluated results are checked whether it is successful or not. If it is successful, we are going to end up this process saying that best decision has been taken. Else we are going to repeat the process again and again until we have found solution for the problem. Okay, so this is how ethical decision making is being practiced in the organizations.